Throughout history, humanity has never stopped fighting, not only to defend its lands but to prove its intelligence, courage, and will to survive. Every battle carries untold stories, bold strategies, fatal mistakes, and moments that change the course of the world. Here on Military Tactics channel, we revisit those pages of history to understand why sometimes a single decision can create a legend. Let's begin today's story. In the summer of 1943, a German supply train carrying ammunition to Kursk exploded. It died 200 meters behind the front. People who, according to Nazi ideology, weren't supposed to exist had destroyed it. By then, 374,000 Soviet partisans were operating in the German rear, more troops than the United States had in Europe at the time. This isn't the Eastern Front story you think you know. In June 1941, Barbarossa had smashed forward. The Wehrmacht trapped millions of Soviet soldiers. Some escaped. They hid in the forests. The Germans controlled the roads, nothing else. The forests swallowed them. 30 men here, a dozen there. Red Army soldiers became something else. Stalin ordered partisan warfare, but no one listened. Everyone was running. Then the Germans began burning villages. A trapped lieutenant watched as the Germans set fire to his own. His family died screaming. He stopped hiding and started hunting. Others joined him. Survival became revenge. But the Wehrmacht had a problem. Their maps showed victory. Reality showed something else. They held the cities. They held the highways. But the forests belonged to shadows with guns. A German convoy entered the Bryansk forest, 20 trucks, 300 soldiers. They found burning wreckage, no bodies. The forest had eaten them. The shadows were learning to fight. The first groups formed out of desperation. Trapped soldiers, communist officials, farmers with hunting rifles. They didn't know one another, didn't trust one another, but they all hated the Germans. They learned by dying. Attack a checkpoint, lose half your men. Blow up a bridge, the Germans shoot 10 villagers. Every lesson cost blood, their own or that of civilians, usually both. A local party secretary named Mail organized one group, 43 men with only 7 rifles between them. They stole German weapons from corpses, built bombs from unexploded shells, and turned farm tools into weapons. The winter of 1941 arrived like death itself. At -30 degrees, Germans froze in their vehicles. The partisans knew the cold and used it. They attacked German posts at night, leaving sentries frozen at their stations, literally frozen, standing dead. A German report described the horror. They come from nowhere. Strike, vanish. We find our men with their throats cut. No footprints in the snow. It's as if ghosts killed them. By December, 90,000 partisans were operating behind German lines, disconnected, uncoordinated, but growing. Every German atrocity created 10 new fighters. Every burned village meant more revenge. Moscow finally noticed what was happening behind enemy lines. On May 30th, 1942, Panteleimon Ponomarenko took command. His job was to turn forest bandits into an army. He brought radios. He brought plans. He brought death to the Germans. The first radio crackled to life in a forest camp. Moscow spoke. The partisans listened. They had targets now. The rail junction at Orcha. The supply depot at VBSK. Sidor Kovac led the deadliest raids, a Civil War veteran who knew how to bleed an enemy. His raids covered over 10,000 kilometers. The Germans couldn't catch him. He moved like smoke and struck like lightning. Planes dropped supplies at night. Explosives, radios, ammunition, and medicine. The forest camps grew, hospitals appeared, weapons workshops, print shops for propaganda, underground cities hidden beneath the trees. But Himmler had plans too. He called it Bandenbekämpfung, bandit warfare. Every civilian was an enemy, every village a target. The war behind the lines turned savage. A partisan later remembered the change. Before, we were hiding. After, we were hunting. Moscow gave us teeth. The radio changed everything. Before, a partisan group might blow up one rail line and not know another group had hit that same line the day before. Wasted effort. Now Moscow coordinated. 10 groups, 10 different targets, maximum damage. Training camps opened deep in the forest. NKVD instructors taught explosives, radio operation, silent killing, and document forgery. The amateur hour was over. Professional killers emerged. Supply drops came, weekly parachutes drifting through the darkness. Partisans gathered them like deadly Christmas presents: TNT, detonators, radio batteries, medical supplies, even vodka for morale. German intelligence noticed the change immediately: better weapons, coordinated attacks, and professional tactics. A Wehrmacht report warned, "The bandits have become an army." Kovac proved it. His mobile group traveled on horseback, 500 fighters armed with machine guns and mortars. They moved faster than German motorized units, striking, vanishing, and striking again 50 kilometers away. One raid destroyed 17 German garrisons in 10 days, railway bridges blown, supply depots burned, telegraph lines cut. An entire German division spent 3 weeks chasing smoke. The Germans tried infiltration, sending Ukrainian collaborators posing as partisans. Most were caught immediately. The partisans had passwords. Moscow verified identities by radio. Infiltrators died badly, very badly. Word spread. The Germans began sleeping in their tanks. Partisans ruled the night. The coordination was working. It was time to show what strategic guerrilla warfare could do. Belarus was 40% forest. The Pripyat marshes stretched endlessly, no roads, no maps that worked, just swamp, trees, and death. German tanks sank in the mud. Their radios died in the swamps. Their supply trucks exploded on forest roads. The geography itself fought them. A German battalion entered the forest, 800 men. 3 weeks later, 200 stumbled out. They had never seen their enemy, only mines, only snipers. Shadows that killed. The partisans built entire cities, underground operating rooms hidden in bunkers, schools for children. Command posts linked by radio to Moscow. The forest wasn't hiding them anymore. It had become them. The Germans launched massive sweeps, Operation Cottbus, thousands of troops, planes, and artillery. They found only empty camps, dead ends, and booby traps. The partisans melted away, then struck the German rear. But frustration made the Germans brutal. They burned villages, shot civilians, and created dead zones. And so, more people joined the partisans. German brutality became the partisans' greatest recruitment tool. A German officer wrote home, "We own nothing here. Every tree watches. Every swamp hides death. This isn't war, it's being hunted." The Bryansk forest alone held 12,000 partisans. They controlled 3,000 square kilometers, complete with their own government, hospitals, weapons, factories, and even theaters for entertainment, an underground nation. German maps showed occupied territory. Reality showed something else. In the daytime, the Germans controlled the main roads. At night, the partisans owned everything. Villages that flew German flags by day helped the partisans by night. The Pripyat marshes became a partisan sanctuary. No German vehicles could navigate the swamps. Local guides led the partisans along hidden paths the Germans never discovered. Partisan boats moved through channels invisible from the air. One German unit became lost in the marshes 3 days of wandering. The partisans watched and waited, letting hunger and mosquitoes do the work, then killed the survivors, leaving their bodies as warnings. The Germans stopped entering the marshes. Partisan camps evolved into fortresses. Multiple defensive rings, minefields, machine gun nests, and escape tunnels. Early warning systems relied on local villages. The Germans needed battalion-strength forces just to approach, and usually found empty camps. The partisans had vanished hours earlier. The forest provided everything: food from hunting, medicine from plants, building materials, hiding places. The forest gave them all they needed. Local knowledge meant survival. The Germans had maps. The partisans had home advantage. Women made up 25% of the partisan forces: scouts, medics, radio operators, snipers. The Germans never expected women fighters. It was a fatal mistake. Female partisans gathered intelligence in German-occupied towns, then vanished back into the forests. Children acted as messengers too young to arouse suspicion. They carried information between partisan groups and warned of German movements. Many died. The Germans shot children too. Age meant nothing in this war. By 1943, the partisans controlled more territory than the Wehrmacht. Moscow was ready to weaponize them. A single rail line ran from Warsaw to Smolensk, one lifeline feeding Army Group Center. The Wehrmacht's throat was exposed. August 1943, the rail war began. In a single night, 8,000 charges detonated. The German rail network died for 2 days. Kursk received no reinforcements. Thousands of bridges were destroyed. Thousands of rail lines cut. Every repair crew became a target. The Germans needed 10% of their entire Eastern Front strength just to guard the trains, and it still wasn't enough. One train left Minsk carrying tank ammunition. It exploded outside Orcha. Another train left with medical supplies. The partisans captured it. A third carried reinforcements. They found only twisted metal where the train had been. But the Germans fought back with armored trains, guard posts every kilometer, and patrols with dogs. So, the partisans changed tactics. They targeted repair crews, blew switches, and cut telegraph lines. Operation Concerto, September 1943. 120,000 partisans struck simultaneously. The entire German logistics network began to hemorrhage. Guderian called it death by 1,000 cuts. At Kursk, German tanks ran out of fuel. Artillery ran out of shells because the trains never arrived, because the partisans owned the rails. The numbers told the story. Before the rail war, the Germans moved 60 trains a day through Belarus. During the rail war, only 12 trains moved on a good day. Most never completed their journeys. The partisans developed new tactics, using delayed action mines. Trains exploded hours after the saboteurs had gone. The Germans never knew which rails were safe. Paranoia spread. Train crews refused to work. Some deserted altogether. German countermeasures failed. They attached empty cars to the fronts of locomotives, and the partisans simply let them pass. Then they blew the ammunition cars behind. The Germans began using local forced labor to inspect the tracks, but the partisans warned the workers which areas to avoid. The Germans found nothing. One partisan group specialized in bridges, 15 major bridges destroyed in 2 months. Each one took the Germans weeks to repair, and while they repaired them, no trains moved. The supply crisis deepened. Frontline units starved for ammunition. The psychological effect multiplied the physical damage. German soldiers knew the supplies weren't coming. Morale collapsed. Why fight when no reinforcements would arrive? When ammunition was running out? When medical supplies had vanished? A captured German diary revealed the despair. No mail from home, no supplies, no hope. The partisans have cut us off. We are already dead, just waiting to fall. Partisan intelligence identified critical shipments, tank parts, aircraft fuel, winter clothing. Those trains received special attention. Multiple partisan groups coordinated to ensure the critical supplies never arrived. German offensive capability died on the rails. The Germans tried deception, fake supply trains, decoy shipments, but the partisans had informants inside the German rail administration. Every deception was exposed, real supplies were targeted, decoys ignored. By October 1943, German rail movement in occupied territory had all but collapsed. What should have taken days now took weeks, if it arrived at all. The Wehrmacht was bleeding out through its severed supply lines. The true test was coming. Operation Bagration would show what a fully integrated partisan army could do. June 20th, 1944, 4 days before it began. Every German phone line in Belarus went dead cut simultaneously. Army Group Center went blind. Belarusian partisans seized river crossings and held them for the advancing Red Army. German reserves couldn't move. Roads exploded. Bridges collapsed. Command posts burned. General Bush, commanding Army Group Center, couldn't reach his divisions, couldn't coordinate a defense. His 350,000 men fought alone. In the darkness, the partisans fed intelligence to Rokossovsky, every German position, every weak point, every ammunition dump. The Red Army knew everything. The Germans knew nothing. When the Germans tried to retreat, the partisans blocked every forest road and blew every bridge behind them. Wehrmacht soldiers found themselves trapped between the hammer and the anvil. A German colonel's final radio message read, "Surrounded, no escape, the forests are alive." Army Group Center died 350,000 casualties. The partisans had set the table. The Red Army feasted. The coordination was unprecedented. Partisan commanders now had Red Army liaison officers, maintaining real-time communication. The partisans had become the eyes and ears of the advancing Soviet forces. They marked German minefields, identified strong points, and captured bridges intact. One partisan group held a vital crossroads for 6 hours against 2 German battalions until Soviet tanks arrived. The partisans lost 80% of their fighters, but the crossroads stayed open, and the Soviet advance rolled forward. German units retreating into partisan-controlled territory stepped into a meat grinder. Every forest trail hid an ambush. Every village had snipers waiting. The Germans abandoned vehicles, heavy weapons, even wounded comrades, anything to move faster. but it was still too slow. The partisan groups that had operated for 3 years knew every path, every hiding place. They guided Soviet reconnaissance units, showed them German positions, and led them around strong points. The Red Army advanced at unprecedented speed. German communication had completely collapsed. Units lost contact. Orders never arrived. Artillery fired at the wrong coordinates. Reinforcements marched to positions that no longer existed. Chaos. Panic. Collapse. Some German units surrendered to the partisans rather than to the regular Soviet forces, believing they would face less brutality. It was the wrong choice. The partisans remembered 3 years of massacres and burned villages. Few Germans survived surrender. The Berezina River crossing became a slaughter. The Germans tried to cross, but the partisans held the far bank. Then Red Army artillery found them in the open. 20,000 Germans died at the river. History repeated itself, a different army, the same result. By July, Army Group Center had ceased to exist. 28 divisions were destroyed. The partisan contribution was undeniable. They had paralyzed German command, blocked retreat, provided intelligence, and held critical points. Success came at a terrible cost for those living in the shadow war. Katyn burned the whole village. SS and Ukrainian collaborators locked families in barns and set them ablaze. Children screamed. Parents couldn't save them. 5,000 Belarusian villages were erased. Collective punishment. Support partisans. Your village dies. Don't support them. They might kill you. There are no good choices. A partisan commander faced the decision. Attack the garrison to save the rail line, or spare his nearby village where his mother and children lived. He attacked the garrison and died. The village burned the next day, his family with it. The war demanded those choices. Operation Kotba swept through Belarus. Thousands were massacred. Not just partisans. Anyone, everyone, old women, babies. The German logic was simple. No people, no partisans. But killing civilians only created more partisans. Every murdered family produced vengeful survivors. In this way, German brutality defeated itself. The mathematics of atrocity were predictable. The Germans burned 1 village, and 3 neighboring villages joined the partisans. The Germans killed a family, not just partisans. Anyone, everyone, old women, babies. The German logic was simple. No people, no partisans. But killing civilians only created more partisans. Every murdered family produced vengeful survivors. In this way, German brutality defeated itself. The mathematics of atrocity were predictable. The Germans burned 1 village, and 3 neighboring villages joined the partisans. The Germans killed a family. Every relative became a fighter. German terror multiplied its own enemies. Some villages played both sides, feeding the Germans information by day, feeding the partisans by night. Survival required flexibility. Both sides knew, both sides used them. Villages were trapped between 2 relentless forces. Children grew up in this horror, watching their parents shot, their homes burned, their neighbors hanged. They joined the partisans at 12 or 13, carried messages, planted mines, and died like adults. The war consumed childhoods. Partisan discipline varied wildly. Some groups protected civilians, others demanded food at gunpoint. Some commanders were heroes. Others were bandits wrapped in ideology. Villages never knew which kind would arrive. Durlawanger brigades specialized in anti-partisan operations, convicts and criminals in SS uniforms. Their methods were medieval: torture, rape, burning people alive. Even other SS units avoided them. One survivor remembered the impossible choice. The partisans came demanding food, we gave it. The Germans came asking who helped the partisans, we lied. Both sides could kill us. We just chose who to fear more. Villages developed warning systems. Church bells signaled the Germans' approach. A different pattern meant the partisans. Children were posted as lookouts. Everyone stayed ready to flee into the forests. Sometimes it worked. Often it didn't. Some collaborators helped the Germans hunt partisans, local police, former Soviet prisoners. They knew the terrain, the people, the hiding places. The partisans hunted them relentlessly. Collaborators died worse than Germans. By 1944, Belarus had lost 25% of its population. Entire regions were depopulated. The partisan war had exacted a price beyond imagination. By 1944, the tide had turned. The shadow armies emerged from the forests as the Red Army advanced. The partisans joined regular units. Forest fighters became soldiers. They hated the uniforms, hated the rules, but they marched west. Stalin trusted no one. The same men and women hailed as heroes in newspapers became suspects in NKVD files. The partisans had lived free too long, had learned to think for themselves, and that was dangerous. A partisan commander received his medal in the morning. The NKVD arrested him that night, charged with unauthorized contact with the enemy, 3 years of fighting the Germans, and his reward was the Gulag. But the numbers couldn't lie. 500,000 German troops tied down, infrastructure destroyed, logistics shattered. So when the Red Army struck, the Wehrmacht couldn't respond, couldn't reinforce, couldn't retreat. The partisan war had proven something new. Modern war had no rear area, no safe zone. Every occupation becomes a bleeding wound. America would learn this in Vietnam, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. Wehrmacht planners calculated after the war that one partisan tied down 10 German soldiers, 10 men not fighting the Red Army. The mathematics of guerrilla war. Many partisans couldn't adjust to regular army life afterward. 3 years of independence, making their own decisions, surviving by instinct. Now they were expected to follow orders from officers who had never seen partisan warfare. Friction was inevitable. Some partisan units were disbanded immediately, their fighters dispersed among regular army formations, their hard-earned knowledge wasted, their experience ignored. The Soviet system did not tolerate independent thinkers, even heroic ones. Others were given special assignments, reconnaissance missions behind enemy lines in East Prussia, Poland, even Germany itself. Their skills remained valuable until the war ended. Then they became problems again. The NKVD's screening process was brutal. Every partisan was interrogated. Who did you know? What did you do? Why did you survive when others died? Survival itself became suspicious. Many disappeared into camps. Some of the famous commanders survived barely. Kovpak became a general, leading regular units. Others weren't so lucky. The more successful the partisan, the more dangerous they seemed to Stalin. Success meant independence, and independence meant threat. The Forest War was over, but its lessons still echo. Desperate bands hiding in the woods had become a strategic weapon. They evolved from survivors to soldiers, from chaos to coordination. The Wehrmacht's war machine bled to death from 10,000 cuts. Hitler's dream of a quick victory died not just at Stalingrad, but in every forest ambush, every blown rail line, every destroyed supply truck, every burned bridge. The partisans proved modern war's brutal truth. Front lines exist everywhere and nowhere. Hitler conquered territory he could not control. The Wehrmacht occupied land that ultimately consumed them. No rear, no safety, no rest, only shadows with guns, bleeding them white. Military planners still study this. The lesson written in blood across Eastern Europe. You can conquer land, but you can't conquer a forest full of people who want you dead. The partisan war holds thousands of untold stories of women who made up 10% of the fighters, of vast intelligence networks, of the complex, perilous dance between partisans and civilians. Every story in history teaches us valuable lessons about strategy, courage, and the strength of the human spirit. Thanks for exploring today's story with us. Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to discover more fascinating historical stories with us. See you in the next episode, where strategy and intelligence continue to shape history.